Good morning and welcome to the Upzone where understanding politics is made simple. We are your two hosts, Mr. Elmer Floyd, former House Representative for the 43rd District in the state of North Carolina, and myself, Tisha S. Waddell, former City Council Representative for the City of Fayetteville, District 3. Mr. Floyd,
Yes, yes, yes.
July 25th, 2024, how go you today?
I am fine. It's raining outside, and I got a text. My creditor said they go not call me while it's raining. Well, I mean, I don't know why they sent me that text, but
Look,
especially,
listen. I've started trolling telemarketers. So when they call me now, Mr. Floyd, I answer the phone, and as soon as I know it's a telemarketer or a spam call, I say, hold on just a second, let me press the button so I can record this call. And as
now,
soon as I say that, they hang up on me.
now sometimes I give them the 1500 number,
A 1500 number.
2323.
Yeah,
Emergency call. That's a non-emergency call.
have them
Okay,
call that number.
you having to call that number.
Hilarious. Mr. Floyd, we have a packed show today, jam packed. But before we get started, do you have any announcements for our audience?
No, Tish, not really. There's not that much going on now. Everyone is getting ready for the November the 5th. So once that started, I guess the community would start getting back, on doing things leading up to the election.
Okay. So we have a, like I said, a jam packed show. We'll be talking about everything from local. We're even going to touch on a little national news, but we've definitely got some local, some county, and some state today. So you don't want to miss this. We're going to talk about truancy rates in North Carolina. We're going to talk about our election cycle that's going on at the federal level, and how things have kind of gotten shaken up, which many of us expected was going to happen. We're going to talk about a lot today, so you want to make sure you stay tuned. And we also have a special guest that we're getting ready to bring into the room. Mr. Floyd, who is our special guest today?
The Simone Pemberton.
The Semone Pemberton. And I tell her every time I hear her name, I always think fondly of Mr. Crisp, because I can remember when I was on council, we were in an appointments committee meeting, and Mr. Crisp was insistent that we appoint Simone Pemberton to the Human Relations Commission. And she has served successfully on that commission. I think she's made Mr. Crisp proud, and she's now running for Senate District 19 seat, facing the current Senator Val Applewhite of that district. I think this is going to be a very interesting matchup. And without, if you don't have anything else you want to talk about, I'd love to go ahead and bring her in the room.
Please bring on.
Well, let's go ahead and introduce to our audience Miss Simone Pemberton. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. I was telling everybody about what I tell you every time I talk to you about Mr. Crisp and how you successfully served on the Human Relations Commission. Tell us a little bit more about yourself before we jump into the meat and potatoes of your campaign.
Yeah, so I come from a military family. My father was in the military. We traveled around everywhere and got here or got to Fayetteville in 1995.
Okay.
I left for a corporate career and stayed away for a little while I was building that. And then I came back in 2015. I've been here ever since.
So what kept you here, Simone?
Well, my family, my family kept me here. My parents moved here initially in '94, and I joined them in '95 when I was mentioning that I got here. But I convinced my two sisters to move here as well. So now my entire family is here. Now one sister has since moved away to be with her husband, but my other sister and my mother are still here. My father unfortunately passed in 21, but we're all here, very close family. So they keep me here, but then also the time that I've been here, I've come to love a lot of the people. It's been a pleasure serving. So this is where I'm staying. I've already decided I'm not leaving.
Well, we'll have you, Mr. Floyd. You have anything you want to
No,
ask me?
I'm just proud that she stepped in a footprint or a area that I've spent 30 plus years in, and that
Hmm.
working with difficult people.
Yeah.
is in human relations. That's a very difficult. You're working with a unique population that's never satisfied with anything, but you must provide them that service. And with a smile, and each time that I see her, I look at the service, and then I look at the smile, and I see how she was able to work with the members of the Human Relations Commission, which is a cross segment of the community. So,
And
I'm
that's
very
very near and dear to you, isn't it, Mr. Floyd, that Human Relations Commission?
well. You spent 30 plus years in it, and working not only at the state level but also at the national level. You tend to look at a person, and I've always said to you, Tish, can that person be Amazon to me? And that's what I look at. Can that person be Amazon? And if I don't want to order a package from Amazon and it get here in December,
Right.
I don't need
Absolutely.
it. I don't
Absolutely.
need
Some of
it.
your experience, Ms. Pemberton, you were the chairwoman of the Fayetteville Cumberland Human Relations Commission. You also
Mhm.
served with the Fayetteville Cumberland Continuum of Care. You worked with the City View News Fund, Healing America, Longleaf Pines Association Legislative Committee, and Public Affairs. And I just want you to kind of touch on how that experience has expanded your thinking in terms of how you would serve as our next state senator.
Well, first of all, it was, I don't really need to say it, but it was valuable because pretty much like what Mr. Floyd said, you start dealing with different people, you get a different perspective of what the needs are because they're not all the same. We could be the same race and have different needs, different expectations, different challenges that we experience. So it helped me understand more of what people are dealing with, even on the continuum of care on homelessness. That alone gave me so much perspective into the issues that not only the people are facing that need the care or the intervention related to homelessness, but also the agencies. The agencies that are trying to provide the services, even they have limitations and challenges that you've got to understand if you're going to solve the problem. Which I know I do air quotes because it's a complex issue to solve, and I don't know if it's solvable, but it is something that we can improve and definitely make more efficient. So that has been one of the most impactful or impactful aspects of working in all of these different areas is getting a broader view of what is actually going on in Fayetteville and Cumberland County.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you. You mentioned something about the long leaf. I guess the Long Leaf Realtor Association Legislative
Longleaf
Committee.
Pine. Mhm.
Okay, I call it leaf for pine. Okay, what does that committee does and what it consists of?
Well, I'm a realtor by trade, so it is the organization that we can sign up with. Most realtors, regardless of what firm they're with, are usually part of that. It's where our MLS comes from. But they also do a lot of legislative things across the state. So that's where that legislative committee comes in, where we are able to lobby for affordable housing, accessible housing as well, because it's not all low income. It's also the accessibility of those who do own homes, our ability to afford it. Same thing with insurance, all those different things. So it's a very important organization that has multiple ties in the community and also on the state level.
But it also give you an opportunity of also to look at how the legislation is drafted and
Mr.
how.
Floyd, I need you to lean into your microphone, sir, because our audience is going to let me have it if I don't tell you to speak up.
Okay, T. But it also help prepare you for the office in which you are seeking. So,
That's
so
right.
you just say to the public, why you are seeking, this position.
Well, the the main reason is for the people. Now, I know everyone says that. For me, it's actually authentic. So I'll start there. The other reason is because we need money coming to the area. I mean, we're a tier one community, which means that we're deemed or labeled impoverished in Raleigh, which means we get less money, which is kind of backwards to a lot of people. So we need someone in Raleigh that is able to advocate for money coming here. We need someone in Raleigh who can communicate with the legislators there to allow things to happen for Fayetteville. And not everyone can do that. Now, some have been able to do it successfully. Currently, we've got our Senator Tom McInnes, who is definitely able to do it successfully, but he's it as far as advocating for Fayetteville. So I am running to be the second person that can be a voice for Fayetteville. Plus the fact that I am very connected to the community. For the last, 10 years or so, I've been serving, as you've mentioned, serving with the Human Relations Commission, with different boards and commissions, but also serving next to you, serving food at different events, meeting people, going to their events, and it wasn't for a political reason. It was just because I love good people doing good people for our people, and when I say our people, I don't mean a certain demographic. I mean the city of Fayetteville, the Cumberland County, for people, for our community, is really what I care about. So, and that's my heart, and that's what I do. And even once elected, I would still be the same person, because that's authentically who I am. But someone who is that connected to the community has a unique ability to voice the concerns that will allow those bills to be passed, from there to here, and bring the money. Aside from that, and I know this is a long answer, aside from that, I'm also connected to some of local government here. So we've already built a relationship. They already know that I'm trustworthy. They know that if they talk to me about something that Fayetteville needs specifically, that I can take that information and I can get it down there. Now, go ahead.
Now, I was going to ask you a question, Ms. Pemberton, because you
Sure.
indicated that you want to be able to bring those resources back to our community. So currently, you are facing an incumbent. What sets you apart from that incumbent to be able to actually deliver on that?
Well, there are multiple things, but I'll talk about the biggest ones first. So I happen to be a Republican. And for those who don't understand the significance of that is, there is a supermajority in the Senate, which means that essentially, if the Republican legislatures don't want to talk to a Democrat to get something passed, they don't have to. So that means they don't have to at all. And it doesn't mean that there's anything, bad going on. It's just
just
how
the
it works.
nature of politics. And
That's how it
I
works.
didn't start with this, Ms. Pemberton, but I do want to remind you, we are a teaching platform. And so most certainly take your time and educate our audience on why you say that, because we've said that multiple times. We even saw a legislator who was in High Point who had to make this same point to his community when they kind of got on him about dealing with the Republican Party, but he was
Mhm.
bringing resources back into his community. So expound on that if you
Right.
need to. Go ahead.
Okay, so because because the Republicans in the majority, it's called the majority, since they don't have to communicate, they don't have to go through, they don't have to get the approval of a Democrat, then you need someone who is able to communicate with the Republicans there, and I happen to be able to, since I also have an R behind my name, what the needs are for this community. Otherwise, we can get passed over. And so far, Senator Tom McInnes, who is the Republican Senate Majority Leader, who has also endorsed me, by the way, he has been the sole senator who has brought money to this area. Now, I know we've seen a lot of news clips and photo ops and all of that say otherwise, but all you have to do is look at the public record. He is the only senator that is voting for money coming to Fayetteville and Cumberland County.
And
So
specifically, we're talking about in this current administration.
in this current administration, yes,
Mhm.
thank you for that. So were it not for him, we wouldn't have $127 million in the budget. Fayetteville State wouldn't gotten money for their housing or anything else that they received money for in this current budget. Cape Fear Valley wouldn't have received money. There wouldn't have been money going towards clean water. So there are a lot of, every major thing that we can think about that's going on, every major issue or any progress that we're looking for that requires money from Raleigh, he has been responsible for bringing that down, now in collaboration with other, with the House or whatever, but he is the only senator. So it is important that you have representation that can take whatever the needs are for this area, and needs are universal. It is not based on what your party affiliation is, and the media has done a really good job in telling us that we're enemies if if we're different affiliation. But the bottom line is, when I talk to people, we talk about the same things. I don't lead with my party affiliation. I lead with what's going on for you. It's the same thing that's going on for me. I want good education for children. I want public safety. I want economic development. I want all of these different things that we share. Excuse me. So it requires someone in Raleigh, excuse me, y'all, allergy
That's all right.
medicine hasn't
Take a
kicked
drink
in
of
yet.
water.
Yeah, I need to.
Go ahead, Mr.
It
Floyd. Did you want to ask her a question while she grabs her sip of water? I see you. I see you with your hand up.
Go ahead.
No, it's that's what she is saying is what the role of a representative or a person, in Raleigh, senator or Republican, your your responsibility is one word: resource. That's why they
Absolutely.
send you to Raleigh. And sometimes, as relates to my party, we fail to realize that the major role your major role is to bring back resources
Absolutely.
and not to follow a straight line agenda. And that's what that's my concern. Now you mentioned something about uh, to look at the delivery that they can look at public record. What do you mean by that?
So everyone can go to, and I should have had the address written down because it's in my favorites, but the legislative website. So it's
It's the
NCLEG. Okay, good.
ncleg.gov.
ncleg.gov, and it does take a little bit of understanding kind of how to navigate it, but once you figure it out, you can start to look up and see what people have done. So you can search for your senator, you can search for your House representative, you can see what they voted for and against. And when you're looking at the budget, now first of all, it's a 600 some odd page document, so but there is a summary, so look for the summaries of these bills because some of them are pretty hard to understand if you just look at it. um, if you find out what the bill number is, you can go to the very top right. If you're on a desktop or a laptop or a tablet, you can go to the top right and you can type in H or S and then the number of the bill. And it'll show you all of the details that are included in that bill. And that's how you can see, first of all, what it's talking about. And you can find out the truth of what it's talking about, because you're going to hear a lot of misinformation, disinformation, let's just say outright lies about some of these things that are coming out. So it's important for you to read it for yourself and understand what's going on. And if you don't understand it, then find the summary where it tells you in plain language what it is in short form. But anyway, so you can see the information there. You can also check and see, okay, is this person really representing me? So and when I say it that way, I mean, if I have a certain value set. So for me, education is critical to me. I believe that every child should have access not only to education, but quality education, and that the parents should have the ability to say where their child goes to school.
I want you to pause
Go
right
ahead.
there. I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Later in the program, once we wrap with you, Mr. Floyd and I are going to be talking about an article that we recently read where it's discussing truancy rates across the state of North Carolina and how in Cumberland County we're trending higher in many instances than the state rates. When you think about education, what are some of the things that you would like to see happen across the state of North Carolina aside from parental choice
Right.
to see our schools serve the needs of their customer better than they're serving them now from a
Well,
legislative perspective?
okay. Well, now I don't know all of the things that are in place today, so I'm speaking from that vantage point. I would like to see programs that are current with how our children learn. So the way I used to learn obviously was a book and occasionally a computer, but now it's all digital. It should be all digital, but there should be games. There should be topics that help them. Not everyone, not the youth that's currently today, well, today's youth, I should say, they may not all aspire to go to college right after that, right after school. So they may want to be online. Their world is online, influencers, gaming, all of these different things. And I think we have to capture them in the way that they learn. So if we're talking about um, plumbing, for example, which I know is a very odd example, but if you took plumbing and made it a game, they could learn how to be a plumber, and be ready to go straight into a trade if they don't go to, if they don't go to college. Now that doesn't mean they go, they still have to go through some kind of certification. I'm not knocking that. But I think that there are ways that we can teach them. We've got youth that learn how to fly a plane with a video game, so that tells you alone that they're able to do those things. So anything that
Essentially
has
revamping that curriculum that's in place to be able to address the way that these students, their brain functions now.
right, and the
That
way
makes
and what they respond to as well.
sense.
So they get bored pretty easy. The attention span online is like 2 seconds. And adults are even coming to that place at this point. And I'm not exaggerating with that. If you look at the TikTok, viewing rate, they normally drop off after 2 seconds. So
So
um,
now with the conversation that's being had around, I see your hand, Mr. Floyd. I'm gonna shut up right after this question. With the conversation that's going on regarding like teacher pay, is it your intention when you if when elected that you would focus on how the budget functions in terms of where the money's currently going in our schools? Or do you think that the solution is just continue to increase the budget so that we can get these incremental increases for teachers versus really making a difference in how the money is dispersed?
I think it would be beneficial to have some transparency in how the money is being spent, not only because of teacher pay, but because we can allocate funds a bit better if we knew how it was being spent. It is important for the teachers to be paid well. They have a very difficult job. Their environment is also difficult as well. So there are quite a few things that need to shift in order to make it better for teachers. And that's not just increasing the pay. I mean, it could also be incentivizing them for being good teachers or great teachers. It could
And
be.
having great results in the classroom.
That's right. And I'm glad you said that, because that truly is the standard. It's not just you being on the job, it's having good results, because that's what makes you a great teacher.
Absolutely.
So in answer to your question, yes, I would focus on it, but it's not, I'm not one that just says throw money at it and expect it to fix itself for anything.
One more question about these schools, Ms. Pemberton. When you look at what recently happened here in Cumberland County, where the sheriff pulled the SROs out of the schools, one of the things that Mr. Floyd and I talked about consistently was that at the state level, there should be somebody who is pushing. I'm telling you this so that if and when you get in office, you can have this as a consideration. There should be somebody, and Mr. Floyd, you can explain this better than I, somebody at the state level who is creating a policy that makes a uniform, that applies a uniform treatment to a budgetary line item for SROs in the schools and creates some sort of a, what's the word you use, Mr. Floyd? How does that all play out from a legislative perspective to make sure that across the state everybody has the same application and is uniform?
But in that particular perspective, all a resource officer, as you know, is required to go to. I think it's a 2 week training course, and normally that's held. When the school has has a break. But what you're saying is that of the state budget, 58% goes towards education. And so when you're doing that kind of thing, I call it the scrambled egg process. You're getting 58%, but at the same time there's other agencies that requires funding also. And so you have to look at it from a scrambled egg standpoint of view. You just can't put 100% of money in education and still you want to lock them up. you know so but at the end at the end of the day, one of the questions I want to ask you: are you willing to work across the aisle with Democrats in order to reach common goals? There's always going to be
Oh,
differences.
that's a good question, Mr. Floyd.
There's always going to be differences. I mean, that's a fact known. But what people don't realize is that at least 80 to 90% of the bills that's passed are bipartisan.
Right.
So the question of it is, are you willing to work across the aisle, to bring back resources for our community? And what you mentioned, we're at the bottom.
Yeah, in short, yes. The longer answer to that is I am an advocate of working together. If you listen to anything that I've ever said, and probably everything that you'll see from now until election and there beyond, is we have to work together. No one side has 100% of the answer. No one side does, because we don't have the perspective of everyone else. So we've got to be able to listen to other people, even people who have opinions that differ from ours, which is how you make good decisions, by the way. You have to be able to listen to people who you don't agree with so you can get a broader perspective so you can make better decisions. So I think any person that's elected should be willing and eager to listen to other people and start working with them, even if they're not of the same party affiliation. Now, I know everybody's not able to do that,
Let me ask you
but I
one last question. The citizen only voting bill. Are you
mhm,
familiar with that?
I am. I
Could
am.
you
Yeah,
continue?
so that bill, I think it was back in June that well, so basically what it is it's a request for an amendment of the Constitution to say that to switch to be more specific to say that only citizens 18 or older or whatever can vote in elections. And everybody's like, well, we can already do that. Well, right now the Constitution says every citizen can vote, or there's some language in there that is ambiguous. So there are some states like California and a few other states where they're allowing people that are not U.S. citizens to vote in their elections, which should scare everybody. So that is because there are people that don't have our best interest in mind, and they can vote for things that are not to our benefit, and we can't do that anywhere else. We can't go somewhere else and vote in their election because it just doesn't make sense. So this is an amendment request. Basically, it will be on November's ballot. So it's an amendment request where the voters can go in and vote and say yes or no, we do not want this. Now, in June, I think it was June 24th or June something, it passed the House and the Senate to put it on the November ballot. It was bipartisan, kind of like what you were mentioning of how that went through. Only 4 people voted against it. My opponent is one that voted against it, so she's okay with having non-citizens voting in our elections. But Cumberland County has said that they are not okay with that for obvious reasons. North Carolina has said that they're not okay with that. And many other states have said the same thing. So just know that it will be on the ballot in November. I am in support of only citizens voting in our elections. Um, it's just a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. But you will see more about that closer to November.
Well, let me say as we exit, I have been involved in politics for about 3 decades. You can tell by my hair, 3 decades of politics. And I have talked with many candidates across the state. And just listen to you today, it's an indicator to me that you are well prepared for the office in which you are seeking. So I just wish you the best.
Thank you. I
Did you
appreciate
want to
that.
leave our audience with any final words before we part ways on this day?
Yeah. So just a couple of things, and I will make it quick. One of the things that I want you to remember is that we all have issues that are nonpartisan, which is what I was mentioning earlier. But I want you to also think, and this is for those who are not of the Republican affiliation or not used to a Republican. The media has shown us a version of what a Republican looks like. I am a representation of what a Black Republican woman looks like. And you've seen me over the years, you've known me over the years. Don't pay attention so much to media, especially now. There's so much going on nationally. It will divide us if we allow it to divide us. And we are not enemies. We're not enemies. What goes on in Cumberland County and these local races are what's going to affect your wallet. It's not the national stuff. It's this local stuff that you need to pay attention to. So don't be distracted by the national. I'd also invite you to have conversations with me. So if you have questions, let's talk. I'm open to it. I have little talking points around the city where people can come, and I'll advertise them on Facebook. You can also go to fayforward.com and you can see my information there, and you can reach out to me directly. So that's FAY forward.com. And thank you both for having me on. I
I don't
appreciate
know if
it.
you know this or not, Miss Pemberton.
What's that?
When I ran for office, I used Fay Forward.
No, you didn't.
I did.
You
Which
should have
is
locked
like
down that
which
domain.
is no, I mean, I think it's for everybody. It's for
It
everybody.
is.
So what I did was no, and I want you to use it. I love that. I love that. So you'll notice that my email address even now is tishafayforward@gmail.com.
I love
I
it.
didn't have money to buy domains when I ran for office, girl. I was bootstrapping that campaign. But I love that you're using that. It says a lot. I do want to thank you for coming on. In full transparency to our audience, I want to let you guys know we are not required to be bound by the equal time for candidates law. We tell y'all this every time, but inevitably there's going to be somebody who's going to say something. So we are permitted to have Miss Pemberton here, and we are not required to invite anybody else in her race to come on onto this podcast. However, I do want to say that many moons ago we did extend an invitation, and it still stands. So I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you, like Mr. Floyd said, for putting your hat in the ring and for being willing to take these hits. I know the hits come. I know that they're coming. And I also want to thank you for really clarifying to our audience that there is a version of Republican that is not the narrative that the media puts forward. And I think if
Mhm.
a lot of us are very honest with ourselves, I'll say this and then we'll let you go. If we're honest with ourselves, particularly in the Black community, we are much more conservative than people portray us to be. So, Mr. Floyd, I always tell you, your party has a they have a narrative problem. They don't know how to tell the right story. I think Miss Pemberton most certainly came and did a great job presenting her points. Mr. Floyd, you have anything before we bid her adieu today?
Well, Miss Pemberton, if I can express to you the same thing that I expressed to this young lady, I think her name is Waddell. If you had the backbone of earthworm,
I
excel.
Mm,
know. Yeah. Yeah.
God should stay strong.
thank you. I appreciate that,
Absolutely.
both of you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Now, Mr. Floyd, here's the thing. I want to be very clear that I believe that we have a lot going on in our community in terms of this election cycle. We got a lot on our palette today. I want us to talk a little bit about some of the things that are going on locally. Floyd, what are you seeing? What are you hearing with this titanium plant?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for Fayetteville, but it's hard to imagine that this company is going to come in and play and pay in the six-figure number when we are somewhere hovering around
Ooh, Mr. Floyd.
$40.
Do you know how many? I got a text the other day from somebody who does not even play politics. And they texted me and they were like, why is this much money being spent to court only this many jobs?
Well, it's job creation and what companies see nowadays. They play the numbers about how can they get the most and best incentives. Just like one thing that the city and county is planning to do is that they are going to buy the land
Uh
and then turn around and give it to the company. Plus other incentives that's coming along with that, with the hope at the end of the incentive that this company will come into the city and you're going to invest that kind of money and turn back around and pay the city taxes because you want to come into the city. Now that's
Well,
hard for me to believe down the road that if you spent 800 and some odd $1 million for the development, that taxes is gonna hover around a little over $2 million a year. So it's hard for me to believe that, but it's a good incentive to create jobs.
well, we also look, we see the Amazon fulfillment center finally opened.
Now they're paying about $15 plus an hour. So when you
Big
put that
money.
$15 an hour plus, and you multiply that time 40 plus 120, well, let's say $100,000 a year. That's a big difference. And what companies are going to say is, my God, you're pulling my workforce, you know, because the waiting list over there is going to be greater in a lot of businesses since our average salary is under $50,000. There are going to be some of our companies complaining about this salary, gap.
$15 an hour at 40 hours a week for 52 weeks in a year is $31,200
So you can see that's quadruple.
for the
Okay.
titanium plant. So
Yeah.
that's why they're like, we need this plant, right?
Yeah, we need to plant, but at the same time, I can recall if there was another article when that the group came into Fayetteville, talk about they're going to renovate the hotel and make it a homeless.
I just read an article about that. I want to say yesterday or the day before.
And
And
all
it's so
Fayetteville,
interesting. And I'm waiting to see. I didn't want to talk about that until we got to because they're rolling it in installments. I want to get to the last installment and see what we said here in Cumberland County. But boy, we got bamboozled by that company.
well, we got bamboozled by that, and the same thing that's in Raleigh with I think it was the Disneyland, whatever. Was planning on building a community in Raleigh.
Right.
Now they have pushed it back.
And Apple, remember when Apple was supposed to come, I think, to the Raleigh camp, to the RTP campus, and
But they pushed it back. And also the factory, I think it was the battery factory up in Guilford County. Now they're pushing their development back into 2020, if
right.
then. But if the construction, and they're looking at construction costs, so if you push it back, uh, 4 years down the road, the construction costs are going to be greater than what it is now. So I'm just always leery about you got to do incentives, but some of it.
But you got to be smart about it. You got to be smart about it.
You got to do it. Now, you got to do incentives.
Oh yeah, because if you don't incentivize business, it will go somewhere else where they incentivize it. Which is why I think, Mr. Floyd, I've been very hesitant to be critical about this titanium plant because listen, and this is why I remember saying at one point, I said, maybe I'm too far removed from the inner circle to really be able to have an effective conversation about some of the things that are taking place. Because as an elected official, when you sit in the rooms, in the closed sessions, you get a lot more detail about a project or about what's going to happen. So at this point, I'm basing my perception solely off of what's being put out to us, which is again, Floyd, why I take such exception with the seeming secrecy around so much of what our government does, because it's hard to really know what's good and not good if you're not getting all the information.
But I want you to remember the day as you and Larry sit across the table and eat. You can say east of Ramsey Street is going to be the environmental racism portion of Cumberland County.
And I wonder how the people that are out in Linden, how they're feeling about this, because it's going that direction, right? So I wonder how that all translates. But I'll say, Floyd, I've been very hesitant again to really weigh in one way or the other because it sounds good, but I still have that same concern you just mentioned, which is the economical impact.
Well, when you look at it, it's next to Cali Springfield. Next to Cali Springfield, not further down, it's PWC. I think it's Hawthorne Water Facility Treatment.
Which is our a water treatment facility. Absolutely.
And you come down just a little bit further, you have a community that say a Dust Bowl.
Yeah.
Right across the track from the Dust Bowl is the county landfill.
Yeah.
They want to buy the city landfill to expand their landfill. So no, it's just the eastern part of Cumberland County. But if you go towards Grave Creek, then you got water contamination. So
right.
We got a lot of concerns.
We have a lot going on. We have a lot going on. Mr. Floyd, we touched on this a little while Ms. Pemberton was on with us today, but I want to talk about this because this is, to me, very concerning. And I would like to know what the response of our local leaders are to this issue. At some Cumberland County schools, more than half of the students are chronically absent. Mr. Floyd, how can you learn if you're not present?
Well, different. Our society is different. I mean, when we had COVID, students was at home learning. Okay. And in the class.
Were they though?
Well, I'm not saying they was not, but they put it online.
Right.
And they spent a lot of money as it relates to you more technical than I am, what they call dead zone. They had bus.
They sure did. Drove those buses out with hotspots on them. They sure did.
So they could cover the students. But students today, is like Ms. Pemberton mentioned, they are more technical. And classroom learning, if it's book learning, many students are just basically bored to sit there and learn from a book.
But
from
Mr.
everywhere.
Floyd, this is the thing though. Have you been in a classroom lately?
Teach, look at my hair.
Okay, so let me say this to you. The students are not even getting book learning at this point. They have books, but if you go into a classroom, there's there's very little engagement. When we were in school, we were engaged by our teachers.
Mhm.
We had books, but our teachers engaged us. They came up with creative ways to engage us in our learning experience. That is missing so much from so many classrooms. Not all, because there are some teachers who are still nailing it where that's concerned. And I talk about this all the time, Floyd, but with the high volume of other responsibilities and duties that are now attached to the teaching experience, teachers just don't have time to be engaging anymore.
Well, you're right about that, Teach, and then again, uh, most of it is what I don't know. I'm not that technical. I call it PowerPoint presentation teaching.
Or worksheets.
Yeah, you see, that's what I call it. And then again, uh, when you look at it, that let's jump and come right back with E. Smith and its location to build it where it is. They're talking about there's no more babies to be built. I mean, to be born in that area. So the school must be transferred, in order.
To somewhere else.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what I'm saying there, this is a much younger generation that is
Look at this
working in
line
school.
though, Floyd. Look at this line right here. You see where it says, ask any public school staffer in Cumberland County, and they'll tell you the kids are not all right. And then
No,
it goes on to say the kids are so not all right. In fact, that according to a Cumberland County School social work coordinator, Pamela Story, 31.93, so almost 32% of the county's public school students were chronically absent in the 2023-2024 school year,
but
which
teach
means that they missed at least 10% of the days for which a student is enrolled in public school, provided they've been enrolled for at least 10 school days that year. Mr.
well,
Floyd,
that's
32% of the students are chronically absent, not chronically tardy, just not there.
well, what we talk about 180-day school year, okay, calendar. So that means that they missed 18 days out of school out
But
of it.
but Mr. Floyd, that's 3.5 weeks
I know, but what I'm
of
just trying.
education.
Yes, but at the same time, remember I started to say is that these children that are in school now are coming that are younger parents, and there's other kids, that's right by their side, and a lot of times because of $15 an hour, the kid has to stay out of school in order to take care of his brother and sister, while the parents go off and trying to make a living. And so it's a shared responsibility that is taking place because we are having children at a much younger age than it was, when perhaps when you was in school.
So look, here's the schools and here's their rates of chronic
Yes,
absenteeism.
yes.
And then it says that for 2023, the school year, high schools are marked in blue, middle schools in green, elementary schools in orange. Look at this, Mr. Floyd. Our
Mhm.
middle school students have the highest rates. We have Alger B. Wilkins, Ramsey Street Alternative School, 83%,
But look at the
69%.
school. Look at the schools there. Both of those schools are unique schools that you understand.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
But look now, Alpha Learning Academy, middle school. That's a charter school.
Yes.
Southview High School, Nick Gerald's Middle School, right here in our district, Mr. Floyd.
Yeah.
Lewis Chapel Middle School, Cliffdale Elementary School, Douglasburg Middle School, Spring Lake Middle School, Lucille Souders Elementary School, right here in our district again. These are primarily what kind of students are primarily in these schools?
Well, they're mostly, well, I'm gonna say middle class and low income.
But they're also predominantly, look, several
Yeah.
analysts noted that low income students, minority students, and students with disabilities were more likely to be chronically absent than were wealthier, white, or non disabled students.
You didn't see Jack Britt on the list, did you?
Well, here's this is the point I'm making, and Miss Pemberton said this earlier. Parents should have a choice where they send their children to school. Because see, I live in the E.E. Smith, Lucille Souders, Nick Gerald's district. Those are the three schools that would serve my students if I had children that were still school age, right? Mr. Floyd, there is no way that I would send my children to Nick Gerald's, to Lucille Souders. I've been to both of these schools. I substitute taught at Lucille Souders at Nick Gerald's. My godson went to Lucille Souders. I've observed in action the climate of the schools. This is not an assault on the teachers, the administration, or the students. This is an assault on the system that permits all of this to be as dysfunctional as it is. I could never. So if I could not afford to send my children elsewhere or afford to do what I did, which was homeschool them for the vast majority of those formative years, we would have been screwed. We would have been screwed, Floyd.
But teacher, that's why I say to you is that many people don't like charter schools. Some are good and some are
But even
bad.
the charter schools are on this list
Well, that's why you should have a choice. Teacher. You should have a choice of where you think is best.
for your child.
Yeah, I mean if you want to drive it past the Alpha Academy to another district, another school, that should be your choice. Why do you
Absolutely.
think people move out to the Jack Rich School District?
Right.
Totally,
Absolutely.
totally
Because I
different.
had a girlfriend, and I could talk about this now, but I had a girlfriend who was like, I'm moving. She moved and lived in a trailer. She changed her whole quality of life in order to be able to put her child at Jack Britt. She moved into a trailer in the Jack Britt school district. She was living very nicely outside of that district. She couldn't find anything in the district. She moved into a trailer in that district in order to be able to have her child go to school at Jack Britt. And
But
it has yielded fruit for her.
it's different to I mean, but we are still funding at whatever level it is for the county school system. It's the you know, one thing that I've always said to you, many schools are site-based ran instead of central office ran. If there was central office ran, that means that we would send you from the list of of applicants a math teacher. Okay,
Right.
you take this math teacher, not that the site-based, you sort of stream and you get the best, and
It's
then allow
political.
these
It's
students,
political. It's
allow these
political.
students to get what left,
It's
from the
political.
application base.
It is political. And Mr. Floyd, speaking of political, it is now time for us to decide who our school board members are going to be. This is the time for reelection for the school board members. The filing period has opened. I'm not sure when it closes. It may be closed already. But currently, is it closed, Floyd?
I think it closes at the end of the month, around the 27th of November.
Okay. So it'll close soon.
Yes.
But here are the candidates that we have so far. We have, excuse me, Alicia Chisholm and well, I'm not going to read them all, but you see here we've got District 1 is contested. The incumbent is Miss Chisholm. District 2 is contested. The incumbent is Miss Jones. District 3, this is very interesting. District 3 is also contested with Thomas Layton Hatch Jr. throwing his name in the ring. The reason I say this one is interesting to me is because those of you that know, Mr. Hatch is a former principal. He was a principal at Reed Ross Classical High School. He was a principal most recently at, is it Terry Sanford? That's the one off of Fort Bragg Road
Yes.
at Terry Sanford. He's very well known in the community, and people regarded him as a good principal. So I think that this will be an interesting contested race. District 4, Donna Van, is not contested currently. She is sitting there, sitting pretty. She's the incumbent. Nobody's filed to run against her yet. District 5 is contested. Ms. Williams is the incumbent. District 6 is contested. And that's what we see so far. Now, the reason I mention this, Mr. Floyd, is because school board determines a lot. They have a lot of say and sway where our schools are concerned. I want to say this, and I say it emphatically. If y'all keep sending the same people back to the Cumberland County School Board, you are saying that you are fine with the schools being exactly as they are. Because many of these people have been there for a number of years, and the schools have progressively gotten worse under their leadership.
Well, let me say that I think Hale is also a former principal, of a
Many of them
elementary,
are former educators or principals.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and perhaps they now see that that at their level now that they understand the system and how they want to see the system, move forward. So it's an opportunity,
I would
to
love to see just some regular parents with kids in school on this board. People who are not a part of the educational experience, but are a part of the parenting experience for the children who are being served by this system.
well, geez, there may be someday.
Anyway, Mr. Floyd, you sent me something that was super interesting to me, and I'm going to put it up on the screen because I think it deserves to be discussed. Now, when I put this up, I'm going to need you to explain it to our audience because when I first read it, my first question to you, I said, is this a call to arms? What is this? And
Well,
you were able to kind of explain it to me, but I'm gonna put up this letter from these representatives. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Let's see. See, Mr. Floyd, this the thing.
well,
When you're working, you can't find what you need to find because you're busy working. You can go ahead and start talking about it if you want to.
this is a group of citizens from Wilmington. They are finally have a drink of coffee.
What does that mean, Mr. Floyd?
They're finally waking up
Okay.
about how the system has been manipulating them.
Can you
They
see this
finally,
on your screen?
not yet.
Okay, hold on.
They finally see that. One of them is a precinct uh, chair. One of them has his own radio program, and one of them, has worked very closely with William Barber, which is the president of the NAACP. But it's basically saying that they fired the the, the school superintendent that they brought in to help correct a lot of the things that New Hanover County was having.
So this
And
is a letter. This is the response.
yeah, their reaction.
This is the response to New Hanover Republican and Democratic parties from the Black community. I don't know who this Black community is because they didn't call me and ask me, did I want to put my name on this? But I also don't live in New Hanover County. So whatever part of the Black community this came from, but I want to read this. And I like how they delineate here from citizens of the Black community because that's a bit more specific. But Mr. Floyd, it says on July 3rd, the Republican Party released a letter expressing their excitement for the firing of Dr. Charles Faust, the former superintendent of New Hanover County Schools. It goes on to talk about how they felt about that and how the Democratic Party made a statement agreeing with the firing of Dr. Faust, but finding fault in the Republican Party's angle of partisan politics. Our community sees a lot of similarities. This was the part I found very interesting. Our community sees a lot of similarities from both parties as it relates to the Black citizens of Wilmington. The only difference is that the Republican Party does not try to engage the Black community based on their past racist behavior towards Black people, and the Democratic Party does not do enough to truly engage Black people, displaying a form of entitlement where Black people are forever indebted to the party. Let's
But
talk. Wait, then they went on to say there has to be more engagement than fish fries and cold beverages during election season. What you got to
now,
say about this?
now what they're doing, as I said earlier, these individuals now have gotten an early cup of coffee to realize that they have been manipulated.
So are people waking up, Floyd?
I hope so. I hope this is a wake up call. That's all. I hope it is a wake up call because we need it. Uh, what they say to us is that we don't even have to worry about it.
We ain't got to. Y'all black folk gonna vote Democrat. I already
We don't
know.
have to worry
You
about
gonna
it.
mark a D.
Even
Look,
if I change, even if
even if
I
I'm
change party. Now, if I change party tomorrow to a D, and I go into the poll, and you go into the poll, you're gonna ask that person at the poll, is he a D or an R?
absolutely.
And you're gonna vote that D and walk out.
And this is one of the things that I really enjoyed about the conversation that we just had with Miss Pemberton. And I want to remind our audience that even in Cumberland County, where the D19, the District 19 race is concerned, there is a prevailing sentiment that y'all not gonna even pay Semone Pemberton any attention because she has an R behind her name. And so, one of the things that I hope will come out of you all hearing her speak to you today is that you will evaluate for yourself whether or not her positions align with your requirements for a leader.
Well, not only that, Chief, what I look at, and I say to you all the time, I mean all the time, I look at Amazon.
Can you
That's what
deliver?
I'm saying. Can you deliver?
And
I
Mr.
mean,
Floyd, how many times have you told our audience the value of being able to work across the aisle?
well, being able to walk across the aisle, you're able to bring back needed, needed, needed revenue.
And if our community remembers, our current senator went in office staunchly opposed to working across the aisle because she was brought in to replace somebody who delivered for Cumberland County by working across the aisle.
Yes, two of your representatives. That was Elmer Floyd and Senator DeVere. Both, if
Right.
you look at the total, it was just about $500 million. So it goes back to the point that we said as we closed was that from the North Carolina standpoint of view is that moving the subject just so we can go out is that our governor is on the short list for consideration as our
I'm glad you brought that up because I said don't close till we talk about that. Go ahead, Mr. Floyd.
I mean, when you look at Cumberland County and you look across the state and you look at the state, voting pattern, when we look at the council of state position, which is 10, six of those are Republican. Okay. The Democrat primary for Democrats in this election. In the last election with Representative Holly running for governor, she beat out the candidate from Asheville that they wanted to be the lieutenant governor. The party gave her a little funding, but Bloomberg gave her a little over $8 million to assist her. And so I'm just saying to you is that, I think that our present governor, when Biden was was running, he mentioned that he would give that Governor Cooper would have may receive a cabinet level position. I think that is good, but if you look at how they argue over the president and the down ticket, we can look at Cumberland County. I mean, not Cumberland County, but the state of North Carolina as a whole. We haven't fared well down.
Right.
And with the two things, the chair of the Democrat Party and the executive branch, is that gives the down the ticket the strength.
Right.
We have not, the down the ticket has not been delivered.
Hmm.
With Sherry Beasley, we didn't do well. The two young ladies that ran for council of state, one ran, I think, was the insurance commission and the commission of labor. We didn't do well. We lost the Supreme Court. there when we know Robert Morgan was going to run for the judge and and the executive branch endorsed Stein over that. So there's a lot of confusion in the black community in talking with them about is will that help the ticket or would it hurt the ticket? And some blacks say it will help, and some blacks said it will hurt the ticket. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that process, you know, and when they look at all the vetting, just like what I just mentioned to you, we from the party standpoint of view and from the executive standpoint of view, we have not been able to deliver statewide. But the first thing that they say, Teach, is that your community didn't turn out. They
Mm-hmm.
always blame you as not turning out. When you turn out, you're giving 95+%, but you still get blamed when they lose.
Yeah. And you get very little in return when you turn out because everybody else gets the win and you just get a thank you and they move forward and handle their business.
You get the popcorn now.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
Mr.
and
Floyd, what you want to leave our people with today?
uh, look, look, and always thinking you never remember anything about Floyd. Is that person that you're going to vote for? Is he or she is part of the Amazon staff?
Yeah. I just want to tell everybody, because y'all know I try to leave y'all with a little Jesus before we go, because I think that that's the only thing that's really going to matter. First, let me say congratulations to Vice President Kamala Harris for possibly becoming the presidential candidate nominee for the Democratic Party.
She has
I,
the vote.
I still think something's in the hopper because it's always something. I do want to ask this question before I give my final words. Mr. Floyd, how is it that for all these last 3 years, people can be saying there's nothing cognitively wrong with the president. He's just fine. He's just fine. He's just fine. He's not too old to serve. He's just fine. He's just fine. He's spry and strong and all of the things. And then as soon as he decides he's going to step down based upon pressure from his party, then it becomes let him go take care of his health. He's doing the right thing, and then the narrative switches to now Trump is too old. He's too cognitively inefficient. So it's like I just wonder how they was both old. Like I just wonder how it is that people can overlook the inconsistencies in communication. And I know there's not the only answer is people hear and say what they want to hear and say, and they're going to do what they're going to do to try and further their agenda. But I think we the people have to start seeing through this crap. We have to start recognizing that they all trying to play us.
Politics, T. Politics, you got to
They are
have a
all
base.
trying to play us, and we need to
You
stop being
got
so easily played.
you got to have a base. And politicians we deliver to a base. That's what they deliver.
Yeah, but they just be making stuff up and they switch up real fast. Like
That's the base, T. They switch it. It
they the most
depends on what base they
inconsistent
get.
friends a girl could have. I cannot.
That's politics. If they're
I
over here,
cannot.
they talk about the mule. If they're over here, they talk about the chicken.
Yeah, yeah.
It's politics. It's politics.
Yeah, when they get home, they talk about all of us and how stupid we are. Yeah, when they get in them closed rooms.
Kind of
But
so,
Floyd,
though, T. Kind of so.
yeah, yeah. But Floyd, I want to leave everybody with this because I know that I'm very opinionated, and I told y'all a little of this last week. But my verse that I'm focusing on today comes from First Corinthians chapter 4, is verse 3. I'm sorry, and it says, "And it matters very little to me how I'm evaluated by you or any human court. In fact, I don't even evaluate myself. I'm not aware of anything against me, but this does not make me innocent. The one who is evaluating me is the Lord." So I am really trying to make sure, and it goes on to say, so don't pronounce judgment prematurely before the Lord comes, for he will bring to light what is now hidden in darkness. He will expose the motives of people's hearts, and then each will receive from God whatever praise he deserves. So, Mr. Floyd, I just want to be very clear that I'm not doing this for praise or accolades. I'm not doing this to be judged or to judge. I think at the end of the day, everything that's done in the dark will come to the light. And we just have to decide whether we're going to put on blinders when we see it or if we're going to accept it as truth. Floyd, I love doing this podcast with you. I say this all the time. I know I done tried to quit several times. Thank you for not letting me. Because in those moments where I'm like, I don't want to do this no more, you'd be like, it is necessary. And you are right. It is necessary, if for no other reason than to keep me informed.
Well, thank you, Tisha. And when you get a chance, read Ecclesiastes 3.
I will. And Mr. Floyd, let me say this too, because I want to make sure we give you a shout out over on WIDU. What day does your program with Troy run on WIDU?
It's every other Tuesday at
Every
9
other
o'clock.
Tuesday. At what time?
It's at 9 o'clock.
At 9 o'clock. And they are over there having some profound conversations. You know, Mr. Floyd is a wealth of knowledge. Troy Williams is a wealth of knowledge. And when you put the two powerhouses together, boom, you get an explosion of information. So make sure that you are tuning in to WIDU for their program. Floyd, appreciate you.
Have a good
Look,
day. Walk in
tell
peace.
a friend to tell a friend, like, share, subscribe, and follow, and make sure that you tune in next week.